Welcome back to the Inner Alchemist TV. In today's video, I want to do commentary on Carlos King and Dr. Heavenly. They did a review of the first episode of Love and Marriage Huntsville. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we get started, please like the video, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, and also that you have your notification bells on. I'll be getting back on the cards next week. I alternate working in the office and from home. So if you guys notice, some weeks the readings will be kind of like popping out, and then the next week it'll be real slow. It's just because I'm not always working from home and don't have that kind of space. But get used to that rhythm. For the most part, I do work remote, but when I'm away from home, it's just harder for me to do it because we're talking commuter time. Then I don't know what's going on with the air, but my allergies, I ain't never had allergies this severe. Like, these allergies are crazy. And then once you finally do get home, you know, the last thing you want to do is this. You just want to kind of like debrief, manage my side business. Thank you guys so much who have been supporting me. I still haven't officially launched. I'm still just kind of like, you know, organizing everything and getting prepared, but I have a soft launch, meaning the products are there. I just haven't started like really pushing them to the forefront. But check it out. Check me out on the Inner Alchemist at Etsy, and see if there's something there for you. So yeah, having said that, let's go ahead and jump right in. So Carlos, I did a whole review on it. I did like an hour-long review, but I was using clips and then I was doing like a direct response, and I said, okay, let me not do it that way, just in case, right? Carlos opens up the reading talking about Martell and the domestic violence situation. And Carlos, this is what I found really interesting. Carlos was clarifying that Melody put Martell on papers, or put the paperwork on him, in order to keep him from releasing this revenge porn that he was threatening to release. And so she went to the police. She filed the charges. Now, I don't know who told her to file the charges or if this came through her mind, but it was used preemptively to keep him, to use it as a cease and desist. Now, I was curious about this, and you guys can correct me or let me know your thoughts about this, because on the one hand, Melody has a position in the show at like Martell is a danger, or he's a threat to her safety. So she's setting up her security and, you know, just blocking herself off. But then Carlos puts it out like, oh, she's using the law as a form of a cease and desist against this porno tape, which in a way takes the steam out of him being a danger to her physically. You know what I mean? Because you would think like, okay, if you have a domestic violence charge, how are you able to work on the show? Now, I was listening to Queen Sheba. She did a video about Stormy Mendoza. Is that Stormy's real name, or is that like a play on words? But in the opening of her video, she mentioned something about Mark Scott. You guys have been asking me to do a reading on him, and from what I'm picking up, Mark Scott is the brother of Maurice and Marceau, and he used to date Melody's mother, but he ended up with the text message that Martell sent Melody. So I was thinking, well, it can only be one of two things. Either maybe Martell consulted with Maurice as an attorney to see if this is something that he could be arrested for, or did he get it from Melody's mother, who he was dating, and was he dating around that time? So those are some thoughts that I had about that, because if you're a mother and you're dating, you might be like, look what this man sent to my daughter, you know. And then, like I said, Maurice could have sent it to his brother, like, I don't know what she's tripping for, this is all he sent. You know what I mean? It sounds like something like that was going on. I don't know though. This is just my thought process based on what Queen Sheba was talking about in the beginning of her video. Because I told you I watch Real Lady D. Real Lady D is so funny. She's actually as far on the opposite end of this as possible. She's more like on the Bible side. But I don't know. I think she's like a real woman, a real sensuous one. I like listening to real women talk. I don't agree with nothing she be saying. And I still just like to hear her talk. Yeah, so those are the people that I'll be like, you know, really would watch, right? So anyways, Lady D was over there. She was talking about, y'all coming on my panel shouting out all these people, and y'all don't shout me out nowhere. And I said, let me go shout out Lady D, since I'll be watching her. Shout out to Real Lady D, okay? Officially on the record. Shout out to Real Lady D. So anyway, so that was my thought process behind that, right? So then I had to question, why would Carlos allow that text message to be shown on the show? Because what he's saying and what he's showing, it just seems inconsistent to me. Out of your mouth, you're making it like Martell's inappropriate, blah, blah, blah. But on the show, you're framing it as if he didn't do anything. Like the text message they showed on the TV show, that text message didn't threaten anything. It showed like him saying things like, why you bothering me, and keep you and your group away from me. And then they piggyback off of that by having Letitia and Destiny have a scene also. And I'm telling you, that scene was so obviously cropped in. It had to have been cropped in because it wasn't consistent with the rest of the show, which was titled Arrested Development, and it was about Martell. Which I was like, is this a play on words too? Because you know, Arrested Development means for the slow people in the back. You know, so it's like it's like calling out some type of slow ass behavior on top of the fact that he was arrested, right? But on the show, you're showing this text message that looks pretty benign. You know what I mean? Coupled with the fact that she's setting up security, coupled with the fact that you're saying like she's using this to keep him from doing something. And so the overall picture to an outsider looking in, who's, let's say somebody just came off the street and let's say somebody started watching Love in Huntsville because they enjoyed Canvas Beauty and they found the show through her. Now you're coming off the street, you have no history. This is what it looks like. You know what I mean? It looks like to me he's saying that Melody's not in any danger. That's why we have Martell still working on the show. She only filed charges on him because she didn't want a certain thing to happen, and this is what he did. And as you can see, it's not that big of a deal, but we're gonna let her show it to be the big deal that she wants it to be. That's how I saw it. That's how I saw it. And it's not just my feeling about it. It's just the perception that they're giving. You know what I mean? It's inconsistent. I don't feel like they should have showed the text message. They didn't have a reason to. But I felt like it was to make a greater point about why they haven't removed him from the show. And in that saying that nothing really happened. She just wanted to be preventative of this thing happening. Right? So that's that. So then they went on to talk about Melody would have stayed in the marriage if it wasn't for this baby. That was Carlos King's argument. And then Dr. Heavenly's argument was, oh, maybe it was the show that influenced her to leave, right? So I want to say this. No woman leaves a relationship for one incident. It's usually a totality and a culmination of experiences that make a woman leave. If Martell was an excellent man, a man of excellence during their entire marriage, and the instance of an outside baby came up, as strong as the love of a woman of her man, she would have accepted that baby as part of him, you know, in his decision and his leaderships. But he had not been demonstrating himself to be a man of integrity or a man of God. You know what I mean? That's what I have against people who use the Bible to say what Melody should and should not do, because a man who's not of God does not get access to God's woman. And if a man is continuing to be a man of God, then, you know, he would get access to God's woman, whether it comes from that woman or another woman. Martell, if you're saying that Melody wasn't God's woman, well, neither is Ariane Curry. So who's the common denominator? It's Martell. So it's not they're not God's women, it's that he's not God's man, and he's not able to pull the God out of a woman, period. You know what I mean? So, but the problem is that a lot of women are turning away from women like you or Christianity who may have other wisdom to offer, because you're using the Bible to force them into accepting things that don't resonate with their spirit and that they feel is wrong, but they're being conditioned through their mother, through their grandmothers, through religion, to think that they're supposed to stick it out and that is something wrong with them, and that they need to constantly cut up and work on and rebrand themselves in order to be perfect or acceptable to keep a man from behaving the way he's behaving. And that's not true. That's not true. A man has to prove himself before God. A man has to submit to the order of God, and these men, they don't want to. They're living in lust. Martell keeps gaslighting, talking about this sex. It's not about sex. It was not about sex. That those people have 4 kids together. Do you really think that she wasn't having sex with him? She was. They were doing something. He's just trying to justify his actions, and it's not cool, and he should be called out for that, for his lack of discipline. Now, Carlos is saying like, well, if he didn't pop up with that baby, then he wouldn't have got left, because the baby was the straw that broke the camel's back. So that's like saying, forget the fact that you've been exposed to STDs, because a baby is the least of your worries. People have chlamydia, gonorrhea, blue waffles, AIDS, HIV. Men are sleeping with men. My homegirl, and I think I mentioned this in another video, she got chlamydia and gonorrhea from her guy that she was sleeping with. She can't even have kids anymore. Women are getting HPV, which is turning into cancer. So a baby is the least of your worries. She would be literally putting her health in jeopardy by continuing to sleep with a man that's putting his penis somewhere else, and she doesn't know about it. He's taking away her right to protect herself physically, let alone emotionally and spiritually and otherwise, right? And so he's forcing her to share demons, spiritual DNA, with this other woman, whose life that she doesn't even know about, and now her life looks just as messy as the other woman's life, because he's linked them both through fluids. That's disgusting. You know what I mean? But it's like society has painted women out to be such jealous maniacs over men, when really it's the other way around. You know what I mean? But we're painted to be like these jealous emotional messes, but in all actuality it's because it's too much confusion, because y'all keeping up too much shit. And when you sleeping with 2 women, especially who do not resonate on the same caliber, then you bring one woman down, one woman up. You're like even in the playing field, and it's just not cool. If a woman deserves to live in her own energy and what she creates with a man, but they want to overlap relationships. They want to respond to you in the way they respond to the other woman, and forget where they at. It's so many multi layers to that, right? But to the point, Martell was emotionally abusing her the whole time. You could see that even in the beginning, when she was talking to him about his actions, and he was saying things like, you wasn't satisfying me. I had to go where I had to go. I had to get where I had to get. You think that that's a godly thing to do, or a godly way that a man handles his woman? Why didn't he say at that time, listen, babe, like, you and I are not on the same page. I don't know if we're outgrowing each other. Help me understand. I feel neglected by you sexually. No, he wasn't saying that. He was saying basically, you're inadequate and I'm going to get what I want somewhere else. And he was saying that on TV. He's leaving a digital footprint for his kids to see. If Melody and Martell drop dead tomorrow, God forbid, this is the legacy that they're leaving behind for their children. If their children should ever find themselves in need of a word, in need of understanding of who their parents ever were, this is what's going to be on record. And Carlos and Heavenly are just laughing about it like they're just making good TV. And like I said, they use these emotional tropes. The woman who got cheated on and had the baby, and then you got Letitia, the single mother that's reintegrating into the workforce. Kimmy, the stepmother. Stormy, the nouveau riche, hood rich person. You got Destiny getting backdoored by her friend. You have all of these emotional tropes and circumstances permeating throughout this show, and then that's why you create those parasocial relationships, right? I post on a community wall that play with people's emotions, get them all riled up, get them emotionally attached to the story, and that's the game. And then you sit back and you laugh like a fucking Cheshire cat. You grinning like a Cheshire cat, and and that's why they call you Car Lucifer. Like, let's keep it real, because you're playing a game with the emotions of black people, and that's fucked up when you think about the big picture, right? Other than that, it's just TV. And it's like, yeah, we're making good TV. Like, this is what they want to see. They want to see the mess. It's not that people are choosing the mess. It's that the mess hits everybody in a certain traumatic point in their life. And it's no sense in calling it trauma bond, whatever. Everybody has trauma. But and all wounds can be reopened. In the black community, we have a pretty much pathological set of wounds that all that we experience across our culture. And this show has managed to open the wounds on all of those and pour salt right into them, and then they laugh their asses all the way to the bank, right? So Carlos is a misogynist. He's in the boys club, and that's the problem with gays, is that they have like this effeminate essence that can make you think that they're on the side with a woman, but as you can see, they're part of the same boys club that heterosexual men are on. That's why when women were beefing in YouTube, the gay men didn't come off their square, because they're part of the boys club. Regardless, they're not going to trade on their own species, and that's the difference between men and women, right? And women have their own things. I'm not judging, because we have reasons why we do what we do as well, right? But the point that I'm trying to make is that I don't believe that Melody just left because of a baby. I believe she left because of a culmination of things that happened over the course of their marriage. And a baby is the natural outcome of a man sleeping with other women unprotected. That's to be expected. But it's only so much people could take, you know what I mean? But he seemed to be like almost promoting the idea that if there's no evidence of a man's actions, then he needs to just serve as that trophy. If he looks good, he smells good, he looks good on paper, and there's no evidence of how he's getting down, then you should be happy as a woman, you know what I mean? And it made me think like, well, damn, like, is that what men think, that they're just a trophy to a woman, as far as like, you know, I just need to make it look good? But that's because you have some women that want to be brides, but they don't want to be wives. And a bride is going to be somebody that wears a wedding as a trophy. Like, hey, I got my ring, I was married now. And then you have a wife that actually is a virtuous woman. You know what I mean? She makes her money, she brings it home. You know, she has her ego satisfied through her creative efforts. She's not looking for external validation. She's not trying to be a star. She's not, you know, she's not doing any of that. Her family is her primary focus, all that stuff. If she is a star, she is a star. But it's just certain ways. It's just certain things that wives are that brides are not. And a lot of women want to be brides, but they're not ready to be like a wife. They're not ready to sublimate their ego. They're not ready to sacrifice themselves. And because it is an act of sacrifice to be in any relationship, let alone a marriage, right? So that's why you should get your fill of life and then decide to settle down, you know. But then you have men, they're so predatory. They want to get you while you're young and fertile and all this good shit, right? Which brings me to my next point. Let me stop right here. So then Heavenly says, no, it's the show that pressured her, or the show is the reason why she left. Heavenly was then insinuating that if she wasn't following her fans or pressured by her fans to leave, she would still be with Martell. First of all, I don't feel like any of them should speculate why she's doing what she's doing, even when it comes to pulling out that paperwork, because they're painting a whole picture of her as, you left because social media pressured you to leave him because he had this outside baby. But if y'all wasn't on TV, then you would have dealt with it like you've been dealing with it. And now you using the law to keep him from doing, to cease and desist him. You know, it's just painting a total picture of her in that way, even as they are saying different words. You know what I mean? Yeah, so there was that. So then Carlos then goes to say, you know, Martell proposed to Melody straight out of her on her graduation day, and Heavenly's like, oh, that's so cute. And I'm like, there's nothing cute about that. It would have been cute if he was demonstrating himself to be a man of excellence throughout the entire marriage. Now, there's some points to make. Now, Melody and Marlene, they had a conversation where she was talking about how you know, Melody was lazy and she didn't help, or whatever they were talking about. Okay, let's take that for verbatim and say that was true. Melody was young, she was coming out of college, you know, let's just say all that, whatever. Okay, fine, we'll let you have that. But at the same time, you were still not being an exact man, an exact husband, right? So when you propose to her on her graduation day, to me, it can come across like that was just your way of not only stealing her shine or sharing the spotlight, but it's like an overt, like, pushing yourself out to be a good man in front of all her people. Like, oh wow, look at him. You know, like you're playing, you know, and it's like, not only are you stealing the shine from her on her day, you're also trying to look like you're part of that total package. And to me, it's like one of those textbook abusively narcissistic moves. You know how you have like those psychopaths that will they make all the right gestures, but it's only in the eyes of the public, and then behind closed doors it's a whole totally different thing happening. That's like hella scary, you know what I mean? And I remember hearing, I think it was all the way back in season 1, Melody was like, she said something like, Martell, he did all the right things. Like, he still gave the flowers, he still, you know, complimented me, like he was still like the perfect husband. And so she didn't pick up on everything right away. And to me, proposing to her on her graduation day was like one of those perfect things, but it was like orchestrated or fake, you know what I mean? And it was meant to give people the impression like, oh, he's such a good man, you know. It's very performative, you know what I mean? Because your actions thereafter weren't consistent with those sweet acts, you know what I mean? Like, you are who you are, and how do you go from this to that? You know, no, it's just that you got pulled out, right? The real you came out for everybody to see. And Melly even, and it was funny, and I literally pointed this out on my Carlos review, and I'll put that review up when I get in a space where I have more room. But it's funny because I'm gonna do a lyric breakdown on Melody's new song Nobody Business, but I'm not gonna say it right now, but she kind of confirmed my suspicion with that, right? Now Carlos is like, well, yeah, of course they're gonna get her. She's young, she's coming out of college, she's up and coming. Yeah, he's gonna take her and mold her into the perfect woman, and he's snatching her up because she's a good woman, she's a boss. No, that's not the correct thing for a man who loves you to do. You don't snatch someone up and mold them. That's called grooming. That's what pimps do to prostitutes, right? We talked about grooming on a community wall when I talked about Martell being groomed into the perfect husband, or Melly being groomed into his perfect mother figure. What was he really grooming her into or molding her into, Carlos? Because everything that she achieved good about herself didn't happen until after she left him. So where did his grooming come in at? You know what I mean? Or his molding of her to be his perfect woman. If he was a leader who could mold her into the perfect woman, how come she didn't actualize until after she got away from him? You know, so that was complete bullshit. And I think that just shows the predatory nature of how some men think that it's appropriate to get a woman and decide that her life is going to be about serving you and being perfect for you. And he talked about it like it was totally normal. Then they moved on to talk about Miss Marlene. And Heavenly, she was making real problematic statements. And she was basically saying like, well, she was doing what she's supposed to do, which is stand by her son in public and clown him in private. And the thing is that in public especially, you should err on the side of truth. You don't have to say things like, you a ain't shit nigga. You don't have to turn your back on your child in order to give a public demonstration of what you feel privately. If you feel like what he's doing privately is wrong, then there's nothing wrong with saying, listen, hey son, I don't know what emotional state you're in, but maybe you need to put some distance between yourself and the situation. Maybe you need to have a little bit more self-control because you don't want to end up on the other side of these things. Or what did you do? What was your thought process? You can have objective conversation with your child that doesn't absolve them of their wrongdoings, even in public. Now, I understand the perception of Martell being beat up on and her needing to stand by his side, but there's still a way to do that without making it look like you're enabling him. You know what I mean? And then Dr. Heavenly is just proving herself to be a manipulative mom, which is a narcissistic trait, and why these men don't have their heads screwed on straight, because their mothers are demonstrating one thing in public and another thing in private, and that's what creates the imbalance, the emotional imbalances, and why they don't trust women and why they don't know what to believe. It starts with their mothers. And like I said, putting on one perception in public and one perception in private. That also happens with young girls. When you go out with some moms, like for me and my mom had a strange relationship, and I talk about it freely. My mom has passed on, but she left these lessons and legacies behind, because at the end of the day, you pick up your parents' karma. You pick up where they left off and you continue the good work. My mom came for a short time. She made an impact and she's gone on. So don't feel cringed about me talking about her. I love her, respect her dearly as a human being, but there's some things that happened between us. And one of those things was, everybody in the world thought my mom was so perfect. Like, everybody loved my mama. It's not, no, you can't find nobody else in the world to say anything bad about my mom. But between her and I just didn't have that experience, and I just didn't get it. Like, I think I only heard I love you maybe twice. We only hugged probably maybe twice, and even then it felt cold and steely. I just didn't feel what they were feeling. She was very, different with me. And that in and of itself creates a problem, because you don't really have nobody to talk to, because nobody sees her the way you see her. You know what I mean? So that's the thing that messes with your mind and undermines your confidence and your perception as you grow up, and makes you more prone to being gaslit and more prone to people playing in your face and playing in your intuition, because you don't trust yourself. It's like, and it's too many people on one side. It's just a horrible place to be in as a child, you know what I mean, when you have that type of thing going on. And Dr. Heavenly is demonstrating herself to be that type of parent who is with you one way in public and with you another way in private. And to her, she's saying, well, and I'm gonna swing for you in front of everybody else, but I'm gonna let you know how I really feel inside. It sounds good, but to a child, they don't understand that's what you're doing. Like, they believe you in both places, right? So this is why men have a lot of distrust for women, because they see how their mothers are moving. They see how they talk on the phone and gossip. My cousin, I remember he was telling me, he's like, if you need something, come to me. Don't tell my mama, because all they doing is talking shit about you on the phone. He told me, you know what I mean? So, little boys, my son, I remember when I used to be kicking with my friends, he'll come bring his little Nintendo and he'll sit outside the kitchen and just listen. He wouldn't say anything. He'll just sit up there and listen. You know what I mean? So it's like, boys, even though they're boys and they play with cars and they do their own thing, they have one ear to everything that a woman does. And you're constantly shaping their perception of women, our integrity, and so forth. And they got trust issues, you know what I mean? And it comes from that kind of narrative that Dr. Heavenly was kind of putting out, right? Yeah, it was something else I wanted to say, but I forgot. But anyway, so I felt like most of that show, and again, I feel like Heavenly is controlled opposition. I feel like she's there to act like she's representing the voice of the people, like she's getting all the hard pressing questions out. But at the end of the day, Carlos is just making TV, you know what I mean? And it's like, we have to divest our emotions and have objective conversations, even if it's just about the subject matter, you know what I mean? But they designed that show to keep people bonded to it emotionally, right? I think then they went on to talk about Sunny and Destiny, and the thing with Sunny being a producer, and Carlos saying that, she was scandalous for backdooring Destiny's man, and we fired her because she couldn't be a producer, but we gonna bring her back on the show. And I'm just not buying it. I don't feel like she was fired as a producer for sleeping with Moses. I think she was fired for something else that had to do with money or budgeting or something like that. And it's like it's like, how you get fired from a company and then you come back through the temp agency. It's like that. I know I made a temp agency analogy on my community wall. I was just thinking, I don't know, I'm a thinker, I'm a brainstormer, and I try to cover all sides. And I was just pontificating on the idea of, wait, is OWN the right people to sue, or if Kingdom Reign is? Because through my research, I learned that networks purchase content and they get their money back through advertising and syndications. And so I'm thinking there's like a great distance between them and Kingdom Reign. Kingdom Reign is where all this bullshit is going down at. That's the trap. You know what I mean? But OWN is just putting out, like purchasing a commercial for the Super Bowl or something like that. if the Super Bowl runs content on their a 30-second ad on their channel during a commercial, and it turns out some people was abused during the process of that commercial being made, do those abused people get to sue OWN for airing the commercial? You see what I'm saying? So that's where my line of thinking was. Not to say it's right or wrong, it's just something to explore. It's not something that I'm trying to prove, I'm just exploring it, right? Just so that all bases are covered. But anyways, for Sunny, if Sunny was fired as a producer for sleeping with Destiny's Men, quote unquote, then she should have been rehired as an actor. So I don't feel like that's the real reason why she was fired as a producer. And the fact that you rehired her as an actor means that you had some type of commingling relationship with her, or she was a friend, because there's no need to have her on the show directly, you know what I mean, unless y'all did something together and she took the hit for it, and then you brought her back in to re-employ her because she lost her job for something that y'all were in on together. I don't know, that's just me speculating. But anyways, yeah, so that's where it ended. But for the most part, I felt like that whole episode was designed to reimagine the whole DV situation, and then they put the DV hotline in the episode, which was really confusing, because like y'all are saying it's not domestic violence at the same time, you know what I mean? So I don't know, the whole thing seemed like a bit of a mind fuck. I feel like they wanted to pretend to blame Martell or be on Martell's side, be against Martell, because they know that for the most part the episodes moving forward are going to be very Martell oriented, and they wanted to kind of like get that out of the way, you know what I mean? And changing the way we looked at DV and what the purpose of her filing the charges were, and why she's so upset. I just felt like that's what that episode was about. They also talked about Martell and Melody, like they were thinking they were going to get back together, but now they think it's a dub. These are my thoughts. I'm going to be candid about this. Martell doesn't want to get back with Melody, and I don't think he never did. What some men do is they try to get back with you, but they're not ready, and they're not thinking that you're actually going to take them back. Now, some women do take them back, and then they end up doing the same thing because they didn't want to get taken back. Martell had every opportunity to get himself together, right? He could have left Ariana alone even while she was pregnant. Even when him and Melody were broken up, he could have got his own place, established like some stability, a routine. He could have gotten a job or finished his builder's license. He could have given her a respectful distance between her and her life and her feelings. Like I said, he could have left Ariana alone, accepted as a co-parent, raised his kid on his own. He could have been kind and gentle and respectful and accountable. He didn't do any of that. You know what I mean? So from that vein, you have to say that he left too. It was a mutual thing, because if he was trying to be with her, he would have made any appropriate change, because the changes that he needed to make to be with her, he needed to make for himself anyway, and he didn't do it. You know what I mean? So I think women have to challenge themselves when we think a man is trying to get back with us. If he's not changing his behavior in his life and doing the work, he's not trying to get back with you. He's just talking. You know what I mean? And while he's talking, maybe he feels guilty. Maybe he misses you. Maybe he wants something out of you. Maybe he wants to manipulate you. I don't know. But what we do know for sure is that if he wanted to get back with you, there are steps that he could take to at least make himself available for that. And I don't think that he did that. You know what I mean? And so from that vein, I can't say that Martell was trying to get back with Melody. I just don't see it that way. Yeah, you know, I always say the good ones go, you know, and the best thing that a man can do for a woman if he's not really ready to be what she needs him to be is to go and not come back. Because you know that you just in the way, you know what I mean? But you're not a good person, and so you make yourself in a way as you don't do the work. You know, you're just a distraction and you need to be cut away. Yeah, so that's how I felt about their review. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If they have a free episode of part 2 or whatever tonight, then I'll watch it and I'll do a review on that. And then next week we're just getting straight on the cards. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think of some of my hunches, my speculations. my details about the show if it matches up with what you've been feeling. Yeah, and I'll see you guys down in the comments. I really appreciate you guys' support. I didn't want to be in the comments of my last video about the palace because I don't want to fuel things, right? But I did read all your messages. And I thank you. But like I said, I don't want to seem like I'm instigating or anything like that. So that's why I'm not in the comments of that video. But normally y'all know I'm going to be interacting because I don't know. I like to see what y'all think about what I'm saying, right? So yeah, like the video, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, turn your notification bells on. I'm going to do a video breaking down the lyrics of Melody's song, Nobody's Business. I got to do a lyric breakdown on that. And so that's going to be a short video. I'll put it out either late tonight. Yeah, I may do it late tonight. And then Mother's Day, I'll probably chill. And then next week, we're back on the cards. So I'll see you guys then. Smash that like button. Visit me on the Inner Alchemist. And have a good one.